plans are afoot now to house 500 of these channel crossers in a barge on the Dorset coast. But it's caused uproar, so it has, with the local community and the local MP. They're saying that they're going to push back through any legal route possible in order to stop this. It's been called cruel and inhumane and all the rest of it, David Curtin. Where do you stand?
I don't think it's cruel or inhumane at all. I mean, the people who will be housed there, if they actually ever go there, will be getting free accommodation, free food, free healthcare, welfare payments as well, just like if they were staying in a four-star hotel or they've been put in a home which could, you know, go to someone else on the council house list. But honestly, I don't think this is going to do much at all to solve the bigger problem, because they're talking about this barge off the Dorset coast, which can house 500 migrants, but there's 50,000. There's 50,000 in hotels around the country. So that's only 1% of the people that are currently in hotels. So you put 500 there, 500 are going to come across the channel in the next few days. So it's only a very, very tiny scratch on the surface. And I think it's a gimmick before the local elections, and they seem to be quite good at doing these kind of things.
What are you on about, John? You're saying you think it's a gimmick as well?
Look, I think it's a gimmick. I think exactly as David said, this is part of the local election campaign. This is not a government strategy. 500 people come in 2 or 3 days, probably 3 days at the moment. And David's absolutely right. There's 100,000 people in the waiting list for their applications to be considered. Why not do them quickly? Why not have all that time you're spending on finding a barge, commissioning a barge, arguing with local MPs, local people, you should put the barge in Portland or wherever. Spend the time getting civil servants to do more than 4 cases a week. 4 cases a week. You have to get through this in some way. And as you know, as your viewers know, I'm in favour of an amnesty for the 100,000 in the backlog, just to clear it and start from scratch, because something's got to give. And at the moment, it's our system, it's local communities, it's the border security. Nothing the government is doing is more than a headline, and it's only to distract attention from the real crisis, and they've got to deal with the real crisis.
But I'm fascinated that your solution is, let's have this amnesty, all you guys in the queue, right, in you go, no checks and balances, I can only assume with your little strategy, in you come. Why wouldn't you go the opposite way? And you could say, right, OK, recently, the primary nation in terms of the volume of people, they're coming from Albania. Well, Albania is a safe place, so I'll tell you what, I'll do a mass rejection of you lot. That's a big chunk out my backlog gone. Why wouldn't you do it that way instead?
It's a small proportion of the total 100,000 are actually from Albania. There's an agreement with Albania. I'm happy to see Albanians dealt with quickly under the agreement. A lot of the Albanians, the handful, I suppose, that have been processed so far, of them that have been processed, a large number have got the right to stay. There's all kinds of issues around. But look, the thing is, the government have let this grow, not just the backlog. How many people have been deported? How many people who've refused had their claim refused, have been deported back to the countries they came from? Hardly anybody. The system's broken at every single level, and I think until the government are honest about that and find an honest solution, not just a headline-grabbing initiative, none of your viewers, nobody will have any faith that the system can work.
Well, I mean, the solution is to stop the boats coming in the first place. They shouldn't be letting the boats actually arrive on the shore on the south coast and actually going out and proactively trying to escort them to Dover. You know, because if people are coming from a safe country, they're not genuine asylum seekers or refugees. If they come through not just one safe country, but a number of safe countries, and they're coming to the UK because they know if they get here, they're going to be rewarded, as I said, with healthcare, welfare, accommodation, food, and all these kind of things.
One thing I agree with David about is we should be actually stopping people coming from France. Let's do the processing of the claims in France itself. I can't see how you can safely, on one of the busiest shipping channels in the world, do anything to interdict the boats. Once the boats come into British water, and which is halfway across the channel, which is 10 miles or whatever from the French coast at some points, then they have to be treated in Britain. Let's get people processed in France. If they have the right to come to Britain, they can come. If they have to wait, they should wait in France. And if they don't have the right to come to Britain, they should go back to the...
But in the meantime, though, while all of those kind of things are going on, just setting up processing facilities takes time, just all the rest of it, whatever. So, but surely, though, just from a money perspective, you must applaud the government for trying to find more cost-effective places to put people than four-star hotels.
Well, it goes back to David's point. This is 500 out of a backlog of 100,000, it does nothing really to dent the costs.
It does.
And for 1% of the people, because the cost of hiring this boat, you've then got the cost of mooring it, you've then got the cost of staffing it, and then you've got the cost of the food on top of it. So actually, what the saving is compared to the average cost of the residents that people are in at the moment, like the ones in my local area, I don't think there's a big difference in this.
There's a huge difference.
It's the numbers that cause this.
Just to be clear on this numbers thing before we come back to you, David, just to be absolutely clear, you've got 51,000 people there or thereabouts in hotels at the moment, costing there or thereabouts £6.2 million a day. That works out an average about £121.60 per person per day. If you put them on the barges, it works out £40 per person per day. So about three times.
Plus other costs.
No, the cost for these barges are apparently £20,000 a day.
Not including the staff or the mooring costs or the food costs. So there's other costs on top.
There are other costs as well. But even if you take that number, you're going down per person from 120 to £40 a day. That's £80 per person. Times that by 500, you get about 40,000. So 40,000 is only a tiny fraction of 6.2 million. The costs will go down from 6.2 million to 6.16 million. And then if you just get another, 360 or so come across the channel,
there's not a lot of these barges around. There's not a lot of these.